Hey, for what it's worth, I didn't think it'd be possible either. I wouldn't have believed a word I was saying, for the most part. I know how it sounds. Trust me, I used to think the same as you, but just indulge me for 1 minute. Do me a favor here. Take a look around, deep out into the night. Look out at all the stars out there shimmering in the obsidian sky. Distances from us and each other that are almost beyond our understanding and our belief. Imagine the countless eons that have passed in the time that just the light from one of them has taken to reach us here on Earth. The years that have melted into nothingness and slipped through our hands like sand. You mean to tell me you can see it all? You can understand the vastness of space, believe the extent of the distances between us and even our nearest planets, and know for a fact that we're all alone in the universe? I don't buy it. Not for 1 minute. It just isn't possible. There are too many options and chances. Surely, if you look in enough places and check enough planets, then one of them will be able to support some form of life. Seems to make the most amount of sense to me anyway. How else do you explain all the UFO sightings? Why they happen all over the world? Why they extend so far back in our history beyond our modern time and our understanding of the world around us, long before we ourselves have even mastered flight. And there's more than that. There's evidence, there's actual factual proof. No, not at Roswell, not Area 51, though everyone seems to know about those ones. Don't get me wrong, I believe these ones are some sort of cover-up as well, but this one is even bigger than that. It isn't all that well known either, that's for sure. But just open your mind for a minute and consider for a second that this could actually be true, and imagine the possibilities. What you just heard is a fictionalized overview of today's subject of this video, one that asks the same question that has been on many of humanity's lips for centuries. Are we really alone in the universe? There are plenty that have thought that over the years, and there is no shortage of evidence and encounters that these people will point to prove their belief. Experiences, witnesses, and even evidence that they truly believe defies any explanation other than the existence of extraterrestrial life, and the fact that it has ventured as far as Earth on multiple occasions. But this is arguably one of the lesser known ones. While it may not have the prestige, the fame, or even the renown of some of the more famous colleagues, does that mean it is less plausible, or does it make it somewhat more believable? Let's head over to Dulce, New Mexico to find out more. New Mexico might be a location that sounds familiar to many of you, but especially those that already have an interest in all things extraterrestrial. The state itself is located in the southwest of the US, with Albuquerque as its state capital and a current population of more than 2 million people. It is the 5th largest state by area, covering more than 120 square miles, or around 315 square kilometers if you are a heathen and use metric. Dulce itself is located towards the north of the state and is populated with somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 people, the majority of which are Native American. It is relatively sparsely inhabited. As of the 2020 census, it recorded only about 2,788 people residing within the borders of its 12 miles square area. And it seems as unlikely and kind of unremarkable an area as any, certainly not the sort of place to kind of play host to one of these stranger rumors that people have been hearing about for the best part of a century now. The general overview is that a number of people have suggested at times, or continue to suggest that to this day, somewhere underneath the Archuleta Mesa near the border with Colorado, there is not just alien activity. No, instead there is an enormous and hidden facility that lurks just beneath the surface, playing host to all sorts of knowing interactions between unnamed alien species and agents of the US government. This has become known as the Dulce Base, named after the nearby town. Something that had existed there for decades right under the noses of local residents and the public at large. But who first suggested it? What evidence did they have to sort of back up this extraordinary claim? And is there truly any merit to it? Let's dig in and see exactly what all this is about. The burning question on everyone's mind after hearing all the pretty obvious, what is this about? And it depends very much so on who you choose to ask. To get a reasonable theory and a series of events that would explain the existence of the superstructure, it is only fair that we go predominantly with the version of events that is proposed by those that believe in the existence of the place in the first place. It's kind of an important part. According to those that believe, there is a multi-story complex beneath the surface of Dulce that plays home to an inordinate amount of things. If they are to be believed, there are hybrid beings that exist in the region and were housed there by various letter government agencies. You know, the three ones, the big three, the famous, okay. In fact, it goes further than the usual theories regarding Roswell and Area 51, where humans simply discovered alien races crash landing because they suck at piloting and then studied them for their technology, which has always been a bit interesting because if you see the technological leap we went from the 1950s when allegedly we found an alien ship in Roswell to where our technology is now, kind of exponential. Like, grew it incredibly fast, regardless of if we took that technology from something else or we made it up ourselves. It just rapidly grew well beyond anything that could ever be predicted. Of course, it's also important to remember humans predict their technology increasing all the time. In the 1950s, we had predicted cell phones. We had predicted the cars we'd be driving. We had predicted homes. We had predicted wireless power. All of these things had already been predicted. We just need to figure out how to build it. Even now, we're predicting faster than light travel. It's all within our sci-fi technology. It's very likely eventually we may be able to, kind of create that as well. But instead, this structure somewhere under Dulce is described as being an operation that is jointly headed by these very same alien species and humans. Aliens that want to work with us would be quite surprising. One that seems to kind of center around crossbreeding and the generation of a creation of cross-species hybrids that would somehow benefit both parties involved in the organization of this. Now, what did the aliens get out of crossbreeding with humans? Probably more muscles and not being huge nerds. What would humans get out of it? Well, everybody wants a nerdy girlfriend, right? So while there have been rumors and unconfined reports of extraterrestrial activity or things that at least raised suspicion with the locals from as far back as the 1930s, it wasn't until the late 70s when these theories really began to take some sort of shape and then gain attention from anybody further afield. Paul Benowitz is generally accepted as being one of the first to propose or at least popularize the idea of the existence of an alien base somewhere beneath the ground in this area. His reasons for this were that he believed he was receiving transmissions that led him to believe there was something hidden below the rock that defied conventional explanation. When he spread the word, many others in the community kind of centered in on this new and novel activity idea. And multiple people within the UFO and extraterrestrial community kind of rallied to him and even began to develop or describe their own experiences with these so-called intercepted communications between the secret base and outer space. Now, there is something of note. As I sit here and record this, for months, I thought I was tripping where I live, right? Because I would hear something talking in my room and I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, it's not coming from my speakers. It's not coming from my phone. What is that noise? Until finally the other day, I was really closely listening to the speaker because I heard somebody talking but couldn't figure out where it was. There was radio signals that are hitting the speakers that I have, and even if they're not supposed to be, connected to the radio itself, something about it is able to pick it up. Very interesting. So you gotta wonder, what were these people picking up? Anyways, the general idea seemed to be that this multi-story cross-species complex was hidden somewhere deep beneath the ground in the general region, and its purpose was to trade both knowledge and living specimens for equal learning and understanding. Why these signals and ideas were only interpreted and intercepted by UFOologists has still not ever been explained. They claim that there has been wars fought over the base itself, either between subspecies of aliens or with humans. It's not specified which. Locals have long claimed to have been finding cattle mutilated with little to no explanation. Nothing that could be attributed to natural causes or predators in any way. Even members of law enforcement seem to have been aware of these rumors, and in some cases, even they have questions of their own. Many of them report unusual findings, otherwise unexplainable debris in the area, or the aforementioned cow mutilations. The evidence that was left there, predators don't leave gas masks, glow sticks, radar chaff. They don't leave that stuff. Some of them reported seeing odd things in the area, such as unidentifiable aircraft that moved in total darkness or complete silence. They also mentioned coming across the carcasses of strange hybrid animals, such as the one that was described as being found inside of a dead cow. Also, what's interesting is, this was a few months ago. They were talking about how, I think it was a jet was trying to keep pace with a ship of some sort that broke the speed barrier or the sound barrier without making a noise. And it's like somebody made a meme about it that's just basically showed aliens calling humanity broke because we keep having to basically hit a sonic boom every time we go past the sound barrier. So anyways, there was a quote stated, "It looked like a human, a monkey, and a frog. It didn't have any bones in its head. It was full of water." The man who gave these two quotes above was a former New Mexico state trooper, and the things he had seen led him to come to what seemed to be a reasonable conclusion. Someone or something was using cows to incubate alien fetuses. Further to this, a man named Philip Schneider, who had worked for the US government as an explosives engineer and held security clearance, claimed that he had personally helped construct the underground base near Dulce. He claimed that this was the site of these fabled wars, where he personally witnessed the loss of 60 US soldiers at the hands of these alien species. He further claimed that these wars and infighting are a regular feature of the underground base and continue to this day. It should be noted that, as expected, no government agency or body has ever corroborated these claims, and I seriously doubt they ever would. Of course, many of you probably will have already made the connection and knows the similarities between this proposed location and what most would call the most famous scene of an alleged alien crash landing, Roswell, New Mexico. Why these two areas of particular interest seem to be located so close together is not something that anyone has offered a reasonable explanation for either, but back in 1947, reports surfaced of an unidentified flying object. Not that unusual in and of itself, but this one actually crash landed in the desert near Roswell. While the official version of events pins this strange sighting, subsequent crash landing, and the relative secrecy that was kept about concerning the entire thing. Basically, they said it was part of a secret operation, that it was developing novel aircraft for Army use, and not everyone was convinced, obviously. Many believed that the sightings of a flying disc in the area around the same time were civilians that had spotted an alien craft flying low over the desert, and that the US Army had moved quickly to secure the site and acquire the debris. Not because it was some sort of any clandestine operation, but because, they needed it. And what did they need? Allegedly, they had finally gotten their hands on not only alien technology, but life forms themselves. These rumors and theories only grew with time, especially since authorities took kind of a while to fully explain the real official story, and this had already gripped the minds of the public and those who had interest in alternative theories to kind of have those ideas pushed to like an unprecedented extent. The Roswell incident became immortalized in TV, in books, and further afield as it became the poster child for those who truly believed that there was something else out there beyond what we were being told. And the case for it all, just being a top secret weather balloon, was made even harder to prove as bit by bit, people would emerge from the woodwork and bolster the alternative theories. Men who claimed to have worked in the area for the government at that time, bearing tales of live aliens being recovered and experimented on, alleging to have seen and possessed footage that proved their beliefs, and spinning tales that kind of towed the very tight line between being plausible and unbelievable. They spoke of secret hangars that were kept to specifically house these alien aircraft. They mentioned specific bits of debris that were actually at the crash site, many of which also, you need to understand, turned out to be hoaxes. It wouldn't be until about the 1990s that the full information about the Project Mogul was released by the US government, the program that stated this weather balloon was from, and by that time, the alternative narrative had only grown in popularity and plausibility. Again, was it a weather balloon? Why the military would freak out over a weather balloon is beyond me. I'm just here to point it out. But eventually, they fully came clean nearly half a decade later about the original event. The government had not put themselves in the strongest position for believability. Shocking. The entire Roswell incident is one that we may as well look into more depth at a later point, but it's something that needs a video all its own to really appreciate. For now, it does enough to maybe go some of the way in explaining why the American public in general, and specifically those in New Mexico, might be more willing than the average person to kind of believe that there may as well be things beyond our comprehension flying through our skies, or maybe even hidden beneath the ground. Probably one of the most famous similar theories or suggestion kind of relates to the location in Nevada known as Area 51. Again, this is a subject that we'll go into because it's deep enough and has its own merit. We're gonna need a dedicated video to fully expand upon it. But depending on who you ask, Area 51 can be a number of things. One aspect that both sides agree on is that it is relatively secretive and conducts generally clandestine work for the US government, or possibly its affiliate agencies, and requires top-level security clearance to access. What they are less likely to agree on is exactly what this work involves. For the most part, it is testing and flying secret and unique aircraft, developing tech and weaponry that is not out in the public eye yet, and generally conducting research that merits and deserves the high levels of security and the lack of transparency that has basically been famous for over many years now. For those that believe it is just another location of the sorts of things that they presume the Dulce alien base to be, a vast location where the government harbors secrets and utilizes aliens and their technology for their own gain. The secrecy is just a tool to keep the uninformed away and blind to what they're truly up to. And here, too, There have been many whistleblowers over the years that have emerged with incredible tales of live aliens being studied, of technology that is far beyond anything we currently have in our world, and all of it doing nothing more than bolstering this idea that it is a place that contains secrets for secret's sake, solely to keep prying eyes and ears away from information and data that would rightly benefit us all, keeping us in the dark. And honestly, I want to know what that fabled war was about. Like, was it just an alien that escaped, or why are they constantly fighting over the same area? So, what is the general consensus on the alien substructure situated around Dulce? This will be one that tracks fairly close with each person's own personal level of belief in whether or not extraterrestrials have actually made their way to Earth, and how much is truly known about these encounters, or how much is being covered up. For believers, this is just another example to put in the file of evidence, one more bit of proof that there really is something more going on and it's being kept away from us. The government agencies and men in black suits are aware of these visits, have evidence of them, and are choosing to hide them from the world at large. More than that, they have participated in a long-running and ongoing collaboration with some of these alien races. The reasons why they would want to do this, if you believe what they say, are many. They are trying to maintain the secrecy to use innovative alien technology for their own respective countries to use. They are concerned about the reaction of the public to the realization that aliens truly exist. Or it could just be the timeless classic, as it usually is, control. For some reason, knowing that aliens visited Earth, left their technology here to be discovered, and various agencies choose to keep it as a secret for no other reason than just to keep the normal people on the street in the dark. On the other hand, you have the other opinions of people who are skeptical of the entire thing. They will point to the lack of proper, substantiated, and publicly available evidence. While this will often be a hurdle that many theories of this will kind of fall down on, it is a difficult one to get past. People on either side of the discussion will have their own standards and quality level that evidence needs to be in order to even be plausible. The fact remains that there seem to be no people outside of the country that even said they had any firsthand or even secondhand experience of this alleged superstructure that is said to exist under the ground in New Mexico. And if you have evidence of it, listen, man, I'm not trying to be picked up by men in black suits. I don't want to know. There are things out there that, do you really want to poke it with a stick? Personally, I think it's important to understand just in general in life, there are definitely things that happen outside of the public's knowledge that maybe you just want to leave it alone. But the point we made in the previous section about the lack of proper evidence, clear evidence, actually goes a long way to explain why two separate opinions might be so far apart on not only this subject, but many subjects that exist in that nebulous area between proven fact and alternate theories. For the skeptic, nothing short of empirical evidence will convince them that the Dulce alien base, or any theory for that matter, and that blatant lack of it is kind of just, it's the final nail in the coffin for them, which is understandable. Proof above all else that is just another harebrained and implausible fairy tale. For the true believers, though, however, the lack of evidence can become evidence. After all, if there is no clear proof available to the public, then surely that adds merit to the theory that there is a cover-up afoot. It becomes a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy where even a lack of evidence can be taken to be evidence in and of itself. But it should be noted that there have been many times where those who have held outlandish or fringe ideas were proven right over time, even in the absence of clear evidence when they started to make their claims. Like, didn't they come out with evidence that the CIA did assassinate JFK? I'm fairly certain. Like, I could be tripping, but apparently I remember something a little while back that there was somebody on the grassy knoll. So even if the imbalance of probability, it may seem unlikely to most people that there would be such a thing as an alien superstructure simply existing somewhere out there in New Mexico, not far from the most famous alleged alien crash site of all time. It's also important to remember that sometimes the difference between a crackpot theory and a fact is pretty much only time. As ever though, make up your mind and maybe look into this further if it's something that interests you. And let us know down in the comments below what you think is the strongest bit of evidence that won't get me picked up by the government, or possibly maybe even the reason that you think it amounts to nothing. And until then, I'll see you next time. But as always, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, then leaving a like would be great of you, and subscribing is a great way to stay up to date on when I post. I know it's been a hot minute. For you guys that are still in the Patreon list, I do appreciate it. What my game plan is for this channel is to definitely continue posting more regularly, at least one video a week for you guys. I know you guys do, like, it's kind of like a very, very small following on this channel, but you guys evidently do enjoy this stuff, and I enjoy making it anyway, so I'm going to continue on with it. Sorry for the break. I had to get my main channel in order, but anyways, I want to thank my patrons real quick. At the literal Wendigo tier, we have Brayley Hoover, Grayson West, and Stupid Fox. Thank you guys. At the Eyewitness to the Event tier, we have Beaver Malaga, Cody Cherry Drake. At the first-hand accounts, we have Pimp Daddy Shamrock, Yeeps. And at the second-hand accounts, we have Bianca, Fred Rush, and Troy. And the rest of my patrons, I do appreciate y'all. Your help goes a long way towards keeping everything running and is greatly appreciated. But all right, I will be back next week. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see everyone in the next one.